So the Green Party have a new leader, which means that a majority of the main political parties in Britain are now led by foreigners, because the Green Party new leader is foreign. We've got the Labour Party, which is led by Keir Starmer, and whilst he might be ethnically British, he is married to a Jew, and according to Jewish law, if you marry a Jew, you become one of them. You join the tribe, essentially. And you know, you can see in a lot of Keir Starmer's policies, whether it's his strong support for Israel, whether it's his support for mass immigration, you know, all of these problems that benefit Jews and Israel but hurt British people or Palestinian people. And that is probably due to the fact that he has married a Jew and he is culturally Jewish. And you know, that's not to say that all Jews are bad, it's just pointing out that because his wife is Jewish and, you know, apparently she has a lot of influence on him, that is going to affect the policies that he is implementing. And then you've got the Conservative Party, which is led by Kemi Badenoch, and she's obviously a Nigerian. And then you've got the Conservative Party, which is led by Kemi Badenoch, and she's obviously a Nigerian. She's not British. Yes, she was technically born in Britain, but you know, that really is a technically, right? You know, her mother was pregnant with her, and at the time, if you were born in Britain, you could be a British citizen. So her mother flew to the UK, gave birth to Kemi, and then flew back to Nigeria. Kemi Badenoch didn't even move to Britain properly until she was 16. She even said herself that she considers herself to be a first-generation immigrant. And you can see that in some of the policies she's implemented. In Parliament, she's lobbied for more foreign visas. When she ran for Parliament the first time in 2010, she was putting out campaign material saying that as a Nigerian, she would be able to stand up for the interests of Nigerians living in Britain. You know, I thought that British politicians were supposed to put British people first, but given that she is not a British politician, she cannot reasonably be expected to put British people first. And then of course you've got the new left-wing parties like your party and the Green Party. Now, Jeremy Corbyn, whilst he does have Jewish heritage, I do actually respect him quite a bit. And then you've got the left-wing parties of your party and the Green Party. And now with Jeremy Corbyn, I do sort of respect him because, you know, he does have Jewish heritage, but he is prepared to criticise Israel. He is prepared to say that anti-Semitism is used as a weapon against people that have reasonable criticisms of Israel. You know, someone like Jeremy Corbyn, because of his Jewish heritage, that probably explains why he supports open borders and internationalism, right? Because you've got right-wing Jews that want Israel to be an ethno-state, you know, Israel first, all of that stuff, because, you know, that is what they got from the Jewish persecution that Jews have experienced in Europe. Now, there are multiple reasons for that persecution, but some Jews will come to the conclusion that they need a militarized nationalistic state to protect them, and then some other Jews will come to the conclusion that the whole world should have open borders and that we should get rid of nationalities and all of this stuff. And, you know, that's really what the difference is. But both of them come to the conclusion that because of Jewish persecution, you know, that happened for various reasons in Europe, non-Jewish countries should be subject to open borders. And so you've got, you know, Keir Starmer, who wants the Jews to have Israel and have collective rights that British people would never have under a Labour government. You know, Israel is, you know, they clearly state, the politicians clearly state that Israel should have a Jewish majority. Imagine if a British politician said that Britain should be majority ethnically British. You know, that would be so controversial, but it's the same sort of thing. Whereas Jeremy Corbyn wouldn't say that Israel should be majority ethnically Jewish, but he would say that no country has a right to be majority of the nation and of the people of the nation. So there is sort of a link there. And the Green Party, led by the new leader Zach Polanski, is also led by a foreigner. And now this means that a majority of the political parties are led by foreigners. You've got Green Party, your party, Labour Party, and then the Conservative Party. And then on the other side, you've got the Lib Dems and Reform. And, you know, the Lib Dems and Reform, it's not like they even stand up for the British people. You know, they can't even define what a British person is. You know, Nigel Farage says that a Welsh person is a person that has lived in Wales for 5 years. And, you know, I'm assuming that his attitude towards British as a whole is probably something similar. You know, and it would be the same with the Liberal Democrats. You know, these politicians will talk about, oh, we need a future for British children. You know, our children should be able to afford to buy a home. Our children should get a good education. But who is our? Can they define our? They can't. When you ask them what a British person is, they'll just say, oh, it's someone that lives in Britain. But that is a stupid answer, because Britain is not just an area on a map, it's a homeland for a people, right? And they can't tell you who the people is. So you shouldn't take them to be seriously. You know, in my opinion, we should have a rule that, you know, to stand for Parliament, you should have to be British. And to vote in elections, you should also have to be British. And I'm not defining British as anyone with a piece of paper that says that they are British. You know, the British people are the descendants of the Anglo-Saxons and the Celts, you know, people that have lived here for thousands of years. That's what being British is. And Kemi Badenoch is not British. Zach Polanski is not British. And that's not to do them down in any way. You know, Kemi Badenoch, right? I think she should be proud of being Nigerian. She is proud. She said in an interview around 10 years ago that while she isn't proud of being Nigerian, she's proud of being a Yoruba, and Yoruba is one of the tribes in Nigeria, and she sees the other Nigerians that are not Yoruba as her ethnic enemies. And, you know, good for her if she wants to think like that. But she said recently that she no longer identifies as Nigerian, and it's like, you can't just identify as the nationality that you want to. You know, people like Kemi Badenoch and Nigel Farage would say that a man is a man and a woman is a woman, and you can't just identify with whatever gender you want to. And I agree, you can't. You're born as the gender you are, and there's only two genders. But why they can't apply that same logic to nationality is beyond me, because it's the same thing. If you're saying that a person can't identify as a man or a woman, they have to be born as a man or a woman, then surely it would also apply to being British or being Indian or something. This really came into my head a few days ago when there was some Twitter beef between one of the Your Party Muslim MPs and this like transgender, like man to woman. The trans person was saying to Adnan Hussein, who's a British-born Pakistani, that, oh, you don't think that trans women are women. Imagine if I said that you're not British because you're ethnically Pakistani. It's like, yeah, he isn't British because he's ethnically Pakistani. Like, both the nationality conservatives, I guess, like those Muslims or Nigel Farage, you know, they would agree that you can't become a woman, but they can't realise that you can't become British just like you can become a woman. It just doesn't make sense. And, you know, the problem we've got is not only are our MPs, a lot of them aren't British, but a lot of the people that own the major industries in Britain aren't British. If you look at the media or the utility companies, a lot of the people that own those companies are foreign. You know, they're vitally important companies. We shouldn't have foreign people owning key British assets. You know, I think that the media should be British owned, because if the media is foreign owned, then there's a chance that they will change what is on the media, because if the media is foreign owned, then there's a chance that they'll report selectively to benefit their foreign agenda. And we shouldn't have that in Britain. We should pass a law saying that If you want to own a media company that operates in Britain, then you have to be British. And if you want to fund a media company that operates in Britain, then you also have to be British. If you've enjoyed this video, then please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Twitter, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.